Today on StampTV, I'm going to show you an elegant autumn card featuring the bleaching technique and the Grateful Heart StampTV kit. This card features the Autumn Blessings and the Harvest of Wishes mini stamp sets. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to do this project. First, you're going to need some stamps, and like I said, I'm using two from the StampTV kit. I'm using the sunflower stamp and then the greeting that says Autumn Blessings. You're also going to need some ink, and I'm using some of the Gina Designs black Onyx ink and some Versamark ink. You're going to need some ribbon and twine, and I'm using some of the Gina Designs black Onyx Gingham, and then I'm using some of the We Are Memory Keepers Baker's twine in the black and white. You're also going to need some embossing powder and an embossing magic pad or some sort of anti-static pad. This pad removes static from the surface of your card and also gets rid of any oils or anything like that that may be on the surface of the cardstock, so the embossing powder only sticks to where you want it. That, along with some of the superfine detail black powder by Ranger, is what I'm going to use today. Then I have some buttons, and you can use any kind of buttons you want. I'm using the Gina Designs Sweet Corn buttons. Now these buttons, I chose these buttons after I did the bleaching technique, and I'll show you why that is in just a little bit. You're also going to need a Cuttlebug folder, and I'm using the Forest Branches Cuttlebug folder. But this card would also look beautiful with the Swiss dot or any of the floral Cuttlebug folders as well. Then you're going to need some dies or punches, and I am using two of the Spellbinders dies. I have the standard circles and the petite scalloped circles. You can use paper punches for this, or you can use your electronic cutter if you have a silhouette or a Cricut or something else that will cut out shapes. I'm also using some 1/4 inch pop dots and some scissors, and then I have a water brush. This is the Niji water brush that I'm using, and I'm going to use it for my bleach. Now, if you like to watercolor and you have a Niji brush for that, you may want to pick up a separate little paint brush of some sort for bleaching. This way you're never going to mix bleach and water together when you're working with your watercoloring. I also have some adhesive here, and the cardstock I'm using today is the Gina Designs Ivory cardstock. I'm using both the 80-pound and the 120-pound. I have some of the Gina Designs Black Onyx and some of our Faded Brick cardstock. Now, another thing that you're going to need for this project is some bleach. And you can use any kind of bleach. It can be generic bleach or it can be Clorox bleach. That's what I'm going to use today. But the one thing I do want to tell you is the bleach works best if it's fresh. So if you've had bleach sitting in your cabinet for years, it's probably not very effective anymore. Pick up a small bottle for your bleaching techniques. And then I'm just going to use just a simple plastic cup to put the bleach in. I wouldn't recommend storing the bleach in this cup, so just put a little bit in, as much as you think you'll need for the project. You won't need very much at all. I'm just going to pour a tiny bit in here, like that much, just so that I have it right there. You can see, not too much. And then I am going to use my Cuttlebug and my heat tool for this project as well. So to begin, I'm going to grab that Faded Brick cardstock, and I've cut this into a strip that's going to go across the center of my card. Along with that, I will need that embossing magic pad. I'm going to run that over the surface here. And then, using my Versamark pad and this sunflower stamp, I'm going to randomly stamp sunflowers across this strip. Now, when you're doing this technique, it's a good idea to turn the image each time you stamp it, just to make sure it looks a little bit different each time and the flowers or whatever image you're stamping aren't too patterned. So there's my first one, and you can almost see that coming up on camera. Leaves a nice watermark behind. I'm going to put one up here. One down here. And a little bit of one up here. and one down here. There we go. Now you're going to need some sort of piece of paper. A folded piece of paper will do. Here I just have a piece of cardstock and I'll fold that. I'm going to use that to sprinkle my embossing powder. It'll make it easy to get it back in the jar. And the Versamark ink stays wet for a real long time. It doesn't dry very quickly, so you don't have to work too fast when you're just using straight Versamark and embossing. Okay, just want to get rid of any excess there. And you can see now my sunflowers are ready to be heated up with my heat tool. Let me just get rid of this excess embossing powder there. Put that back in. Okay. And I am ready to heat up my image. Now it is good to have something to hold on to this image, like a clothespin or something like that, a pair of tweezers, but once again I forgot that, so I'm just going to emboss one side and then flip it around in my hand and emboss the other side. With the embossing powder, you do want to make sure that it doesn't burn, so once you see it come up nice and shiny, don't sit on it too long with the heat. A little bit of that one. Then I'm going to flip that around in my hand and do the other side. And you can see that getting nice and shiny. For doing the bleaching technique, you really do have to emboss first. If you try to do it with just dye ink, even an ink like StaysOn, it still will bleach right up and it'll be gone. You won't see any more of the ink. So you do have to emboss it first. So now I'm going to grab my water brush, and again this is the water brush that I use only with bleach, and I'm going to grab that little bit of bleach and dip the water brush in there. Put my glasses on for this because this is pretty detailed. And then I want to be careful not to bleach anywhere that I don't want the color to come up, because it's not something you can erase. Once you bleach, it's going to bleach and you can't really change it. I tried one time with a little sponge dauber and some of the ink that coordinates with the cardstock, but it's just not exactly the same. It looks a little bit too bright when you do that. So just be careful. Even if you go outside the lines a little bit, that's okay, because that will give it a watercolor look. But just be careful not to drip the brush on your way over. Now you can see this color is already starting to come up. And it is just amazing the different colors that come up when you bleach our cardstock. So I'm going to finish these up. Isn't that so pretty? I wouldn't have expected it to be such a pretty color yellow. And again, my bleach is fairly new, so it's really working well and it's working very quickly. I like the small water brush. This is the small Niji water brush. Niji makes several different kinds of water brushes, different sizes, large, medium, small. I like the small because it has the most delicate little point on the end, and it makes it very easy for doing these types of techniques. Plus, if you do watercolor, it is a nice brush for watercoloring. If you're very careful, you can use the same brush for watercoloring and bleaching. You just have to make sure that you wash it very well with a little bit of mild soap and water, and then just let it air dry to make sure you get all the bleach out of there. Because sometimes that bleach can be reactivated by a little bit of water. So you can see this is all coming up so nicely, and it's really fun. It's really fun to see what happens. Sometimes even the shading within the same piece of cardstock is a little bit different from area to area, depending on how much dye is saturated any given area of the piece of cardstock. So you get some really interesting looks. Almost done here. Now, to help speed up the processing time of the bleach, you can take the heat tool and you can just hit it from behind a little bit with heat, and that will help make that bleach really work a lot more quickly and more vibrantly without the risk of burning the embossing powder by doing it on the front. See, that's really coming up nice. Now, if there are a few areas that are a little bit wet, you can just gently, moving back and forth, dry them. Even a paper towel, if you want to lightly blot it, you can. Just be careful not to smear it when you blot it. And look at how beautiful those sunflowers came up. Isn't that fun, with no markers or anything? Just what the natural cardstock does when you add bleach to it. So now I'm going to layer this with a piece of black cardstock, and I'm going to do that with a little bit of my mono-adhesive tape. When you do emboss, it can curl the paper a little bit, so you might want to use a little bit of extra tape just to make sure that that panel stays down nice and flat. Okay, so there is that panel of beautiful sunflowers. Now I'm going to grab the Cuttlebug. Let me get the bleach out of the way. I'm going to grab the Cuttlebug and my A and B plate, and I'm going to use that Cuttlebug folder along with a piece of 80-pound ivory cardstock. I'm going to slip that in here like that, and then put the other B plate on top and run that through the Cuttlebug folder. And that is a really nice pattern. I really like that. Very autumny and branchy. Now, before I finish with the Cuttlebug, I am going to grab a scrap piece of ivory cardstock, and I'm going to stamp out that Autumn Blessings image. There we go. Onto the black. And then I'm going to cut this out, also grabbing an A and a B plate. And I'm going to cut that out using a Spellbinder's die. I have the circle dies. Let me just grab those. There we go. Okay. So I'll cut this one out using the A and B plate and then the C plate on top. And then I'm going to emboss that by flipping that over, and then I'm going to use the rubber mat on top, another B plate, and I'm going to use a piece of chipboard on top. Now, every Cuttlebug is calibrated a little bit differently, so you may not need that extra piece of chipboard, but I tend to on mine, and I'm not sure if it's because mine's a little bit older and so it's gotten a little bit looser. But there is that greeting, Autumn Blessings. Next, I'm going to grab a piece of black cardstock along with that A and B plate, and I'm going to cut a scalloped circle out. And that one I'm going to need the C plate on top, but I'm not going to emboss it since it's just going to be a layer behind that first circle. There we go. And these two will layer together. I like that with just that little tiny edge sticking out there. That's really pretty. All right, so now it's time to assemble this card. And I'm going to add a little bit of ribbon to that strip. Here I have some of the Gina K Designs black Onyx gingham ribbon. And I'm going to cut a little bit and just add a strip right down here. So I won't need very much of that. Just a little bit. It just needs to wrap around the back. And I'm going to place that just about here. And then add a little bit of mono adhesive on the back. Once I get one in place, then I'll flip it over to make sure that it's straight. Now my next step is to add another little piece of ribbon. I'm going to slip that underneath and make a knot. Just like this. Just a knot. I think I'll slide that down just a hair. And then I'll be able to trim the ends of that off. Like this. But I want to finish it off with something. So this is where my buttons came in. Rather than pick the buttons up front, because I didn't know what color this was going to bleach out, I waited to see what the bleached sunflowers looked like, and I thought that they matched really nicely with our sweet corn buttons. So I'm just going to grab a button out of here, and there's all different sizes. Let me find a size that I like. That's kind of a nice size. And then I'm going to use a little bit of twine. And I'm going to create kind of a buttony bow here. So I'm going to just slip that baker's twine underneath. And then I'm going to thread one part through the button on one side. Probably should trim that a little bit to a point. Makes it a lot easier to get it through. And the smaller the button, the harder it is, so you can always wet it if you have to. So there's the one side. Let's see how difficult the other side will be. There we go. That one wasn't so hard. And then I'm going to put that into position and then tie it, and then put a little bow on top of that. And once I get all this done, then I'm going to trim everything down to a size that I like. So sometimes those loops get a little bit big on that baker's twine. So there we go. That's good. Do that one there and that one there. And then I think I'll trim this part down just a little bit more. And a little bit more on this side. That is such a nice embellishment for a card. My next step is going to be to adhere these two panels together using some mono adhesive. And I love that little thin black border around the perimeter. You can also use the dark chocolate that comes in the kit for this. That's a really pretty combination. And then this is going to get that back into place here. This panel is going to go right across the card there like that. So I want to add a little bit of extra adhesive over that ribbon. You can see how easily that popped up. So we want to make sure that sticks down. Put that right about there. And then I want to adhere these two pieces together, the little greeting and that black scalloped circle. And we're going to adhere that on with a couple of pop dots. But before we do that, let's put the entire card right onto an ivory card base. You can see how nice that wider ivory border looks. That right on top. And then we'll add a couple of pop dots so we can pop this greeting, and then we could twist this a little bit and get the ribbon out of the way. Angle that just a little bit more, and we can put that greeting right about there. So we'll add the pop dots to the bottom of that greeting, because they will have to kind of jump up over this layer. This little circle will. so we don't really have to attach it at the top. This way it'll lay a little bit nicer. Just put the pop dots down a bit. Move this one down just a little bit more. There we go. And we'll pop that right about there. And there is my finished card project. You never know what color you'll get when bleaching cardstock. So try making your own swatch book of Gina K Designs cardstock with bleached images. This way you can quickly match pattern paper, complementary cardstock, and embellishments, and you'll have an easy-to-use reference tool.